The morning sun stretched across the small English town of Ashford. People filled the streets. Coffee shops opened their doors. Delivery vans rolled toward local businesses. The air carried the peaceful rhythm of another busy weekday. At the edge of an industrial estate stood a modest brick garage. The faded blue sign simply read, Walker Auto Repairs. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't modern. But everyone nearby trusted it. Inside, Ethan Walker tightened the final bolt on an old Land Rover. His hands were rough. His jeans carried years of grease stains. His work boots had been repaired twice. Yet every movement showed experience. Customers didn't come because of fancy waiting rooms. They came because Ethan fixed problems honestly. Dad. A cheerful voice echoed through the workshop. 10-year-old Lily hurried inside carrying 2 sandwiches. She wore her school uniform. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders. You forgot breakfast again. Ethan smiled. I knew someone would rescue me. She laughed. You always say that. Lily carefully placed the sandwiches on the workbench. You have 3 customers waiting. I know. And Mrs. Collins called. I know. And your phone rang 6 times. Ethan laughed. I definitely know. The small garage felt alive. Engines hummed. Customers chatted. Birds sang outside. Nothing suggested disaster was only hours away. Across town, glass reflected sunlight from one of the largest manufacturing headquarters in southern England, Morgan Industrial Systems, a company producing automotive components across Europe. Its leader, Victoria Harrington, 38, sharp, brilliant, demanding. Every newspaper called her Britain's toughest manufacturing CEO. Victoria entered the executive meeting. Everyone stood. She preferred facts over compliments. Report. Her operations director spoke. Our new expansion requires the Riverside Industrial Estate. Victoria nodded. How many remaining tenants? 4. Buy them out. 3 accepted. And the 4th. The room became quiet. A small garage. Victoria glanced at the report. Walker Auto Repairs. Yes. He refuses every offer. She closed the folder. Increased pressure. The legal director hesitated. His lease expires this month. Victoria looked up. So, we could simply refuse renewal. Then do it. No emotion. No hesitation. Just business. To Victoria, 1 garage meant nothing compared to a multi-million-pound expansion. Back at the garage, an elderly customer smiled after receiving his repaired van. You always charge too little. Ethan shook his head. I charge what's fair. The man replied, that's why people trust you. Ethan watched the customer leave. His apprentice, Noah, approached quietly. The landlord called again. Ethan sighed. I guess they want an answer. I've already given one. Noah frowned. Maybe we should move. Ethan looked around the workshop. Every wall carried memories. He had rebuilt the place after losing his wife Emily 5 years earlier. Every tool had a story. Every shelf reminded him why he kept going. This garage built our future. At lunchtime, a black luxury Range Rover stopped outside. Everyone noticed. Perfectly polished. Company logo. Professional driver. People whispered. Someone important. Victoria stepped out. Elegant navy business suit. Designer sunglasses. Confident stride. Employees stopped working. Silence spread. She entered without greeting anyone. Ethan Walker? He wiped his hands. I'm Ethan. She looked around. So this is a famous garage. He answered calmly. Depends who's asking. I'm Victoria Harrington. I know who you are. She handed him a document. I'll make this simple. He opened it. His smile disappeared. Lease termination. Immediate redevelopment notice. He slowly looked up. My lease has years remaining. Our legal team disagrees. I've followed every contract. The property owner has exercised redevelopment rights. Ethan remained calm. There must be another solution. Victoria replied. There is. She slid another paper forward. Compensation. Small. Insultingly small. He stared at the figure. This won't even cover moving costs. It isn't designed to. Several mechanics nearby exchanged nervous glances. Nobody dared interrupt. Ethan asked quietly, "What happens to my staff?" Victoria answered, "That's your concern." "My customers?" "Also yours." "My daughter?" Victoria showed no expression. "This is business." Lily arrived from school early. She noticed strangers. "Dad?" Ethan smiled despite everything. "Everything's all right." Victoria noticed a child. For only a second, her expression softened, then disappeared. Lily asked, "Who's she?" Victoria answered herself, "I'm buying this land." Lily smiled politely. "Oh." Then she looked at Ethan. "Are we moving?" The question landed heavily. Even Victoria noticed. Ethan knelt beside Lily. "We'll figure it out." Victoria checked her watch. "You have 48 hours. She turned toward the exit. Before leaving, she looked once more around the old workshop. Oil stains, old lifts, worn cabinets. Nothing impressed her. She spoke without looking back. Progress always replaces the past. Then she walked away. The Range Rover disappeared down the road. Silence remained. Noah finally spoke. "What now?" Ethan folded the notice. "I don't know." That evening, the garage stayed open longer than usual. Customers continued arriving. Word spread quickly. People were angry. Mrs. Collins walked in carrying homemade pie. "They can't do this." Ethan smiled gently. "They already have." One customer said, "I'll write to the council." Another offered, "I know a solicitor." Someone else promised, "We'll help." Ethan thanked everyone, but deep inside, he knew powerful companies usually won. The next morning, construction surveyors appeared outside. They measured land, placed color markers, photographed buildings. It felt like strangers measuring someone's future. Lily watched through the office window. "They're acting like we're already gone." Ethan forced a smile. "They're just doing their job." His phone rang. A known number. He answered. "Mr. Walker?" "Yes." "This is your landlord. We've made our decision. I notice. You'll vacate by Friday." The call ended. No apology. No discussion. Just another door closing. Meanwhile, inside Morgan Industrial Systems, executives celebrated. The expansion project was ahead of schedule. Victoria approved new factory layouts. Investment reports looked excellent. Everything appeared perfect. Her assistant entered quietly. "The garage owner hasn't accepted compensation." Victoria barely looked up. "He will." "What if he doesn't?" "He has nowhere else to go." She believed every problem could be solved with leverage. She had built an empire thinking that way. That afternoon, an old silver Jaguar pulled into Ethan's garage. The driver stepped out. Gray hair, simple jacket, quiet confidence. He didn't introduce himself. "I heard you're losing your workshop." Ethan nodded. "Seems that way. I need my car service." Ethan smiled. "You're welcome." The man looked around. "You still take pride in your work." "I always will." Hours later, the repair finished. The man examined everything carefully. Perfect workmanship. He looked impressed. "You fixed something 3 dealerships couldn't." Ethan shrugged. "They were replacing parts." "I repaired them." The stranger smiled. "I appreciate craftsmen." He paid, then left. No one noticed the expensive watch beneath his sleeve. No one recognized him. Across town, Victoria received an unexpected email. Subject: Private shareholder meeting. She frowned. The sender belonged to one of Morgan Industrial's oldest investment groups. They rarely requested meetings. She whispered, "Interesting." Back at the garage. Closing time arrived. Ethan locked the workshop. Lily held his hand. "Will everything be okay?" He looked toward the setting sun, then smiled. "It has to be." Neither of them realized. The quiet man with the silver Jaguar wasn't an ordinary customer. He was Sir Arthur Pembroke, one of Britain's most influential investors. And after meeting Ethan Walker, he had just made a phone call that would change both Ethan's future and Victoria Harrington's entire empire. The next morning arrived bright and clear. Sunlight poured through the windows of Walker Auto Repairs. Although the future looked uncertain, Ethan unlocked the garage exactly as he always did. He believed one thing. Until the final day arrived, he would continue serving every customer. Lily helped arrange a reception desk before school. She placed fresh flowers in a small glass jar. The flowers came from their tiny garden. "People smile more when they see flowers," she said. Ethan smiled. "I think you're right." Business remained surprisingly busy. Customers came not only for repairs. They came to encourage Ethan. One man refused a discount. A young couple brought coffee for everyone. Another customer handed Ethan a handwritten card. It simply read, "Good people always find another road." Across town, Victoria Harrington stood before a digital presentation inside Morgan Industrial Systems. The expansion project covered an enormous screen. Executives applauded. Everything appeared perfectly planned. "Our demolition contractor begins next week." "Excellent." "Our investors are pleased." "Good." "The garage issue is almost finished." Victoria nodded without emotion. "Then let's move on." She believed the chapter was already over. She had no idea a completely different story had just begun. Meanwhile, the elderly man with the silver Jaguar parked outside the garage once again. This time, he wasn't alone. A younger man stepped out, carrying a leather briefcase. Ethan greeted them politely. "Good morning." The older gentleman smiled. "My car runs perfectly." "I'm glad. But today—" He paused. "I'm not here because of my car." The stranger finally introduced himself. "My name is Sir Arthur Pembroke." Ethan politely shook his hand. The name sounded familiar, very familiar. Noah suddenly froze. His eyes widened. After the visitors entered the office, he whispered to Ethan, "Do you know who that is?" Ethan shook his head. "No, he's one of Britain's biggest private investors." Ethan looked surprised. "What would someone like him want with me?" Sir Arthur smiled. 5 minutes of your time." Inside the tiny office, the furniture looked old. The kettle whistled gently. Lily's school drawings decorated the walls. Sir Arthur studied every picture carefully. "Your daughter drew these?" "Yes." "Beautiful." He finally looked at Ethan. "I've spent 40 years investing in businesses." Ethan listened quietly. "I've learned one lesson. You can rebuild machines, but it's much harder to rebuild character." Sir Arthur placed a folder on the desk. "I've been asking people about you." Ethan looked confused. "About me?" "I spoke with customers. I spoke with suppliers. I even spoke with former employees. They all described the same man. A man who never overcharges. A man who keeps his word. A father who never quits." Ethan felt embarrassed. "I'm just doing my job." Sir Arthur smiled. "Exactly." He opened the folder. Inside were photographs. Old industrial buildings. Large workshops. Several unused warehouses. "I own these properties." Ethan remained silent. "I believe one of them could become your new garage." Ethan looked shocked. "I couldn't afford anything like this." Sir Arthur shook his head. "I didn't say I want to sell it. I'd like to partner with you." The room became completely silent. Sir Arthur continued, "I don't invest in buildings. I invest in people. And yesterday, I found someone worth backing." Ethan slowly closed the folder. "I appreciate your confidence. But why me?" Sir Arthur leaned back. "Because your greatest asset isn't this garage. It's your reputation." At that same moment, Victoria attended another executive meeting. Her finance director looked unusually nervous. "There is something else." Victoria noticed immediately. "What?" "A private investor has begun purchasing Morgan shares." She barely reacted. "That's normal." The director continued. "Not at this speed." "How much?" "Nearly 6%. Victoria frowned. "Who?" "We don't know." She closed her tablet. "Find out." Back at the garage, Sir Arthur continued speaking. "I've watched many companies fail. They buy expensive equipment. They build beautiful offices. But they forget the people. You already have loyal customers. You already have trust. Everything else can be purchased. Lily returned from school. She politely greeted the visitors. Sir Arthur smiled warmly. You must be Lily. She nodded. Dad says always introduce yourself. Sir Arthur laughed. Very wise advice. He noticed a small notebook in Lily's hands. What's that? My ideas. For what? Our future garage. Everyone smiled. She opened the notebook. Inside were colorful drawings. A children's waiting corner. A coffee machine. A clean workshop. A reading shelf. Fresh flowers. Sir Arthur looked at Ethan. She's already planning ahead. Ethan smiled proudly. She always does. Later that afternoon, Sir Arthur invited Ethan to visit one of his vacant industrial buildings. They drove together. Only 20 minutes away, a huge modern workshop stood behind secure gates. Ethan stepped inside. High ceilings, professional vehicle lifts, modern lighting, large customer parking, enough room for 20 mechanics. He slowly walked across the empty floor. His footsteps echoed. Sir Arthur quietly watched. What do you think? Ethan smiled for the first time in days. It feels impossible. Sir Arthur answered. Good opportunities usually do. Back inside Morgan Industrial, Victoria finally received the investigation report. The mysterious investor had continued buying shares all day. Now, nearly 8%. Her legal advisor looked concerned. If this continues, they'll qualify for a board seat. Victoria folded her arms. I want names. No one knows. Meanwhile, Sir Arthur handed Ethan another document. This isn't charity. Ethan looked carefully. It was a business proposal. Fair, balanced, transparent. You run the company. I provide investment. Profits are shared. You remain majority owner. Ethan looked up. You trust me that much? Sir Arthur smiled. I trust evidence. That evening, the entire garage team gathered around a workbench. Ethan explained everything. Noah couldn't believe it. A proper workshop? Another mechanic laughed. With working heating? Everyone smiled. Hope slowly returned. Across town, Victoria stood alone inside the top-floor boardroom. She overlooked the city. She believed every challenge could be controlled. Every competitor could be defeated. Every obstacle removed. Her phone rang. It was her finance director. His voice sounded tense. The investor has reached 10%. Victoria slowly turned toward the window. So, they're serious. The next morning, moving trucks arrived outside Ethan's old garage, not to remove equipment, but to pack everything carefully. Dozens of customers appeared unexpectedly. Some volunteered. Others brought boxes. Local mechanics from neighboring towns offered help. Even competitors came. One smiled. We compete for business. But today, we help family. Ethan looked around. No expensive advertising had built this. No giant corporation. Only years of honesty. As the final toolbox was loaded, Lily quietly touched the old garage door. Thank you. She whispered. You looked after us. Ethan closed the door for the final time. He didn't cry. He simply smiled. Time for the next chapter. Across the road, a black luxury car stopped. Victoria happened to inspect the redevelopment site. She watched the moving trucks. She expected anger. She expected arguments. Instead, she saw neighbors applauding, customers shaking Ethan's hand, children waving goodbye. For the first time, she noticed something money couldn't buy. Respect. Real respect. As Ethan climbed into the moving truck, his phone vibrated. It was Sir Arthur. I have more good news. What happened? The investment group approved everything. And one more thing. I think it's time you learn why I became interested in Morgan Industrial. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Sir Arthur smiled quietly. Because I don't just invest in garages. I also invest in factories. Ethan looked stunned. Far across the city, Victoria entered another emergency board meeting. Waiting on the conference table was a report that made every director fall silent. Someone had just acquired another massive block of company shares. And for the very first time, Victoria realized She might not be the most powerful person in the room anymore. The new workshop officially opened on Monday morning. Bright sunshine filled the massive building. The fresh blue sign above the entrance read, Walker Automotive Engineering. People gathered outside before the doors even opened. Former customers, local business owners, families. Everyone wanted to see Ethan's new beginning. Lily proudly stood beside the ribbon. Ready, Dad? Ethan smiled. I've never been more ready. She handed him the scissors. The ribbon was cut. Applause echoed across the parking area. Inside, every repair bay was busy within the first hour. Mechanics worked with modern equipment. Customers enjoyed coffee in a clean waiting lounge. Children played in the reading corner Lily had designed, exactly as she had drawn in her notebook. Sir Arthur quietly watched from the back. He didn't want attention. He simply smiled. I made the right investment. Across town, Victoria entered another emergency board meeting. The atmosphere felt completely different. Nobody was smiling. Her finance director placed another report on the table. The unknown investor now controls 15%. Victoria looked directly at him. Who is it? He answered quietly. We finally traced the purchases. Everyone waited. The investment company belongs to Sir Arthur Pembroke. The room fell silent. Victoria immediately recognized the name. One of Britain's most respected investors. A man famous for buying undervalued companies. A man who almost never lost. She requested a private meeting. Sir Arthur politely declined. Instead, he sent only one message. Strong companies are built by strong people, not by fear. Meanwhile, Walker Automotive Engineering became the talk of the county. Social media filled with 5-star reviews. Customers praised Ethan's honesty. Local newspapers published stories about the single dad who refused to give up. Business grew faster than anyone expected. One afternoon, a fleet manager arrived with 20 company vans. We've heard good things. We'd like you to maintain our entire fleet. Ethan smiled. We'd be honored. The contract was worth more than his old garage had earned in months. 3 weeks passed. Exactly 21 days. Morgan Industrial held its annual shareholders meeting. The largest conference room was completely full. Investors, directors, lawyers, journalists. Everyone sensed something important was about to happen. Victoria stood confidently at the front. She began presenting the company's expansion plans. Halfway through, the doors opened. Sir Arthur entered. Walking beside him was Ethan Walker, the same mechanic she had forced out of his garage. Whispers spread across the room. What is he doing here? Isn't that the garage owner? Victoria looked confused. Then her legal advisor leaned toward her. His face had turned pale. They're together. Sir Arthur stood before the shareholders. Ladies and gentlemen, during the past 3 weeks, my investment group acquired controlling interest in Morgan Industrial Systems. A wave of shock swept across the room. He continued calmly. Today, I officially transfer operational ownership to the management company we created. He turned toward Ethan. Walker Industrial Holdings. Victoria stared in disbelief. The screen behind her changed. A new logo appeared. Walker Industrial Holdings, Ltd. Ethan slowly walked to the podium. He wasn't wearing expensive designer clothes, just a perfectly tailored navy suit. The same humble smile remained. He looked around the room. I never wanted revenge. Silence filled the hall. I wanted opportunity. He continued. When my garage was taken away, I thought my future had ended. But someone believed in my character. He nodded respectfully towards Sir Arthur, and that changed everything. Victoria finally spoke. You bought my company? Ethan answered calmly. No, I bought a company filled with talented employees. There's a difference. Nobody applauded. Everyone simply listened. Ethan looked toward the factory managers, the people on the production lines. They keep this business alive. The engineers, the technicians, the cleaners, the reception staff. They deserve leadership that respects them. He turned back toward Victoria. You saw an old garage. I saw a community. Victoria lowered her eyes. For the first time in years, She had no answer. After the meeting, many employees expected mass layoffs. Instead, Ethan gathered everyone inside the factory. I know many of you are worried. Smiles slowly disappeared from nervous faces. No one loses their job today. Relief spread across the room. We're going to improve this company together. Applause erupted. Weeks later, the factory introduced better training, safer equipment, employee bonus programs, apprenticeships for young mechanics. Business improved rapidly. Orders increased. Morale returned. One sunny afternoon, Victoria visited Ethan's office. She no longer arrived with lawyers. She came alone. She placed the old lease termination notice on his desk. I kept this. Ethan looked at it quietly. She took a deep breath. I built a successful business. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing people. Ethan nodded. We all make mistakes. Victoria extended her hand. Congratulations. He shook it. Thank you. Outside, Lily watched workers leaving the factory with smiles on their faces. She looked at her father. You fix more than cars. Ethan laughed softly. I had good help. Sir Arthur smiled. So did I. As the sun shone over the modern factory and Ethan's thriving automotive business, he realized something money could never buy. Success wasn't measured by buildings, or titles, or luxury cars. It was measured by trust. Because a lease can be taken away, a building can be demolished, but integrity, when earned, can build an empire.